came into HubSpot 2.5 years ago.
That's right.
As VP of Media. I know that you led digital at National Geographic, at Vice.
Yeah, I was at Vice. I was at another V company called Vox Media, which just got
There we go.
parts. And I was at Complex as well.
At Complex. Then you came in 2.5 years ago as VP of Media at HubSpot. So I guess first off, what does the VP of Media at HubSpot do?
Yeah, so effectively, I am running a media company within a software company. And so the way that we're structured is we have a content division, which is video producers, writers, editors, animators, a monetization division, which is effectively like what the sales team is for a traditional B2C company. And they're really responsible for demand generation, conversion rate optimization against all the inventory that we generate. And then an audience development team that is really helping us build up additional scale across all our various channels and getting more distribution for the content that we produce on a daily basis. But if you were to look at it and remove the HubSpot brand, you would say, oh, it's a media company. It just so happens to sit within a B2B software.
Can you give a sense of the scale of what that team or what that audience looks like?
Yeah. So today we're about 70 folks. We own and operate 17 YouTube channels, 6 newsletters, have about 150 creator partnerships, and a number of different websites. And we have folks across all teams producing content, distributing content, monetizing content. And on a monthly basis, we're probably pushing out north of 2,000 pieces of video content, both short form and long form. So long form being roughly like 100 pieces and the rest being short form clipping, in addition to creator content, text content, audio content, and newsletter content that gets set on a daily cadence. And that's allowed us to be able to scale our operation to reach about 50 million people every single month and convert tens of thousands of them into leads, and then ultimately qualified leads and net ads for our business every single month.
Okay. So we'll talk about the leads and the measurement because we have to. But I believe you guys made a big splash in 2021. You bought The Hustle.
Yep.
I don't know, was that the first foray into media, or did you own any media companies before that?
Yeah, so that was the catalyst for what HubSpot Media became. Historically, we were very much blog, SEO, reverse engineered content focused, and it worked really well for us until it didn't. But luckily, we sort of were prescient in the sense that we said, okay, you know what? We can't just only hedge against one channel. We have to really diversify at the top of the funnel. And that was the impetus for us acquiring The Hustle and then building out what's today HubSpot Media.
So I know you weren't there for the acquisition of The Hustle, but it was a big acquisition. It was in the tens of millions of dollars. It's working.
Yes.
You've decided to double down, triple down, and so on. So before we get into, I guess, the actual, how do you measure this? How do you think through? Just what was it that made the team say, okay, let's do this again. We're gonna, we made a big bet and it's working.
Yeah, I think results always help. Like being able to prove to your CFO and to your board that, this kind of bet that you're making that seems a little non-traditional because it's not direct response or traditional brand advertising does in fact work, albeit takes a little bit more time with media. But also being able to show that it works across a bunch of different vectors. And so not only was the driver for this originally, hey, how can we reach more solopreneurs, small business builders at scale through a trusted editorial brand like The Hustle, but then being able to monetize that and turn that into new customers for HubSpot was obviously something that, any finance team loves to see. And so the fact that we can prove that against a bunch of different top and lower funnel metrics has been really important for us and has been how we think about future acquisitions like the ones that we did over the last year and a half.
Okay, so let's dig into that. Yeah. You guys recently bought a couple different media properties.
Yep.
Let's dig into, you had to make a pitch eventually to the board. We want to buy this company.
Yeah.
Rewind the clock, however appropriate. How did you get from this might be a media company we would buy to, okay, we're going to shell out millions potentially of dollars to buy the company?
Yeah, I think we saw it first and foremost as a strategic lever. So, I don't think anyone's immune to this, but search traffic's down, CAC is up. People are not necessarily listening to these sort of voiceless brands that create commodified content, but they're going to subject matter expert creators or journalists. And just the top of the funnel has just become super wide, super fragmented, but the middle of the funnel has kind of contracted. So it's this sort of hourglass shape now, as opposed to this like nice, neat funnel that goes wide and then low towards the bottom. And so at the very top, it just becomes necessary to have as much, cover as much surface area as possible. So if you can do that while also making the math work from a conversion perspective, it's an easy pitch to make.
So let's talk about the math. So you find a media property.
Yeah.
You say, we have a thesis. Walk me through what happens between we like this as a potential acquisition to we're shelling out cash.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's like, hey, how can we kind of address some of the headwinds that we're seeing from search declines, from paid media, CPMs and CPC increases, et cetera. And media has become a great lever for our business. The second is that a secret of ours is that we oftentimes have already worked with these creators for years. So through our creator program, we treat that as kind of like an incubator where we'll, identify new creators, typically video or newsletter first, and say, hey, look, like, why don't we work together on a package of 3 sponsorships? And those sponsorships are oftentimes first them being HubSpot customers already, so they can speak authentically about the product, but then not necessarily being a live read where we hand them a script, but saying, hey, let's co-create content together that is a value add to what the audience is watching or reading. And if we can see conversion there consistently time over time, then it's a signal to us to continue to expand the partnership out. And so 3 months might turn into 6 months, might turn into a year. So as is the case with Starter Story or Futurepedia, which was our most recent acquisition, we've been working with those guys for 18 months. Like, they got to know us, we got to know them. It never started from a place of acquisition. It always came from a place of mutual respect. And over time, that partnership turned from transactional sponsorship to, hey, come out to our big event that we do in Boston every year that's attended by 13,000 people. Hey, let's get you more distribution across our network. Hey, let's co-create content together. Hey, let's actually co-create lead magnets together. Let's just go deeper beyond just us cutting you a check and you moving on. And assuming that we can check all those boxes, then sometimes it does turn into an acquisition conversation.
And just to confirm, by these companies, do you turn the ads off?
Traditionally, we turn the ads off, and it's not because we don't like money, but it's because our monetization model is just different. We buy them oftentimes for the trust that they've been able to develop with their audience and their scale. And we leave that editorially independent, because the worst thing you can do is buy something and then kind of meddle with it and become and lose that audience overnight. But I find that whenever you are building towards ad revenue, the incentives are sometimes the wrong incentives. Like, you're trying to chase scale because more impressions equals more money because there's a fixed CPM, like whatever the methodology is. When you're focused on reaching an audience, it kind of changes how you think about strategy. No longer are you trying to chase scale, you're trying to chase the right high intent audience. You're creating things that are specifically for them that may not get the same amount of views or the same amount of unique opens or the same amount of CTRs, but generate, what I've seen at least, higher conversion into customers for HubSpot. There are some instances where we do leave monetization on, like we keep our YouTube AdSense on because it's just a signal to the algorithm that, hey, we can make money if we distribute further. And so we get a nice little check every month, but it helps us get more reach on that platform.
So thinking about the measurement, thinking about we know customers are coming from this, it's over a very long period of time.
Yes.
Right? I personally, or we at Stacker, fell for this, where I had been reading The Hustle as a newsletter for 6 or 7 years. Our sales team came and said, we want to switch off our CRM. We want to use HubSpot. It's the most expensive option. And I was like, well, HubSpot, I've been listening to their podcasts, reading their newsletters. Yeah, let's sign a check. Yeah. So, but there's like 5 years of me consuming content before you got $1 from me.
Yeah.
How do you guys think about measurement? Because there's a lot of people in the room that are building all sorts of different newsrooms. They're thinking about, how do I prove that this makes sense, even though a customer might not become a customer for 3 years?
Yes.
How do you guys think about that?
That is the bane of my existence.
Okay.
It's hard, right? Because a lot of this is not directly attributable. It's sort of inferred and influenced, especially as you get further past the other kind of post-click down to, how does a lead become a QL? How does a QL become a net customer ad? How does a net customer ad become MRR to ARR to lifetime value? It sort of becomes blurrier and blurrier. And so a lot of it historically has been focused on the thing that we have the most visibility into, which is, how can we turn a view into a lead? Or how can we turn a open into a lead? And beyond that, we worked with our measurement team to kind of assign attributable credit and kind of forecast what do we believe the value of that is. But we've also gotten more sophisticated around measuring the exact user experience that you just described, right? Which is like, media is a long burn, especially whenever the purchase cycles have become so much more longer and complex. I think I read a Gartner survey or a research the other day where it's like, before people even buy software today, there's 29 different touch points and then 6 people that have to decide on that decision before a software gets purchased, right? And so to us, it's like, if you're not present within people's lives during that 95% of the time when they're not in the market to buy software, then you're pretty much not on their day one list. And so there is this kind of like qualitative, kind of like unknown aspect of it that takes a lot of confidence from a finance team and a CEO, and a belief that, you can't just continue to rest on your laurels and pump money into DR and brand, but you do have to diversify in ways that might be a little bit more harder to measure.
You talked about the value and putting a lot of work into thinking about how you track and measure the value of a view into a lead.
Yeah.
Do you have, not to, solve world peace in one sentence, but what advice do you have for people that are thinking about that for their own brand publications, whether they've bought them or built them?
Yeah, have a point of view. I mean, the last thing you want is for your CFO, your finance team to come knocking and being like, wait, I'm investing how much in headcount in OpEx on this thing that I can't see immediate return like I do from my Meta spends or my Google spends, which is like the wrong thing to be thinking about. But you need to have a point of view on measurement, because media traditionally has been the hardest thing to measure.
Okay. You guys have bought media companies. There's a small handful of other companies that have taken that route.
Yep.
Most companies are building them from the ground up. Why do you think no one's doing what you're doing? And do you think it could work for other companies?
Yeah, I mean, just to clarify, we build a lot of our media brands as well from the scratch. From the ground up. And oftentimes, whenever we're deciding to buy versus build, it's because there is there's an opportunity that we feel like if we were to build it, we'd lose out on capitalizing on it. Or maybe it's just a content weak point of ours. And so a good example was our AI media acquisitions, where the conversation was sort of happening without us. We were, creating some blog posts. It wasn't really breaking through. There's thousands of AI newsletters built off of Substack and Beehive, and we were kind of losing out on it. So in order to catch up to it, it's like, let's not spend 18 months and fall even further behind. Let's buy instead. But a big thing that I think, sorry, remember what the question is again?
I guess my question is, there's companies here of all sizes.
Yeah.
Right? So there's companies of 15 people with one person doing content in half their time. There's someone from Anthropic here. You guys are a massive company. Let's say you join what are the filters where this does or does not make sense? Like, if people in this room are thinking about, should I go think about buying a newsletter? Or no, it doesn't make sense for us to do that. We're building this. Like, if you were to join another company,
yes,
maybe a smaller company, what are some of the things going through your mind of, let's run back the HubSpot playbook versus that doesn't make sense here?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think about it. So I think about it like this. Like if you're not a HubSpot, but let's say you are a Profound or a Ramp or whoever, and you kind of like own a specific topic area, right? Are there other creators out there, or are there other media companies that are kind of owning that conversation that you believe you have the opportunity to really drive forward? Because you have bespoke insights, original data sets, and maybe it's just like a new way for you to generate demand. You can either build that, right? But you can do the math and model it out to see, would it actually make more fiscal sense for us to buy it instead? So how we think about it is like, we run the numbers. Like, we do a lot of diligence up front in partnership oftentimes with the acquisition targets to understand what do historicals look like, what do we think the forecast will look like. Oftentimes, these are also creators that have a huge network of different channels as well that we've never even partnered with. So how do you factor that in as well? If you can run the models and make it work, then it's just a math equation, right? Like, if you believe that over the next couple of years, you will generate more revenue than what you will spend on the acquisition, it makes sense. That said, if there's no one out there that is actively building this out and you feel like it's table stakes, then build it. Like, there's no downside to that at all.
Super helpful. So let's talk about editorial.
Yep.
You buy companies, they've been doing this for years in some instances. They now have new parents. I'm going to assume you guys are not squashing a story about how evil HubSpot is, but maybe you are, but wouldn't tell us. But I guess I'm curious, what oversight there is, right? Is there any, hey, we'd like you to go this way, or is it just keep doing what you're doing? Maybe the best question is like, where has there ever been tension?
Yeah. It hews more towards the latter, where it's like, hey, keep doing what you're doing. And what we bring to the table is more production resources, more capital, more distribution, more non-digital platforms for them to show up through that they couldn't probably build or partner on their own. There are instances where maybe we have a new product launch that is related to them topically, where it's less about, hey, create content around this, but it's like, hey, let's co-create something that can be tangential to that video that maybe you're producing around AEO or marketing, whatever it is, so that it comes across as like a nice, really organic ad as opposed to the core piece of content. But we never come in and say, hey, look, like things are changing. You're gonna, start writing about Sales Hub like that. Like that would be like why you even buy it in the first place.
Have there been instances of tension of we want to write about this? Let's go that way.
No, never once. I mean, one time they wanted to write at Salesforce. No, okay. Yeah, no, never.
Let's talk about YouTube and newsletters. Yeah. You started with a newsletter that had a podcast. Some of your more recent acquisitions have been YouTube channels. Yeah. How do you think about those kind of in the ecosystem? What makes for a great acquisition? What are you thinking about? And yeah,
I think we've learned a lot from the hustle in that experience. Like it's been a positive experience, but obviously it was very newsletter first. There was my first million, but it was kind of like a little nascent at the time. It was very raw. And so we've been working with Sam and Sean and kind of just professionalizing it. It's been very successful. But what we realized is that with newsletters, you have to continue to refill or replenish the pipeline of net new contacts to be able to turn them into new customers for HubSpot, potentially, right? And so oftentimes you can do that organically, but you're also spending money on Meta, Beehive, et cetera, to be able to bring new audiences in. What I like about video specifically is that YouTube doesn't really require that. And in fact, if you are doing that, it's oftentimes a signal that that video shouldn't get the same kind of organic reach that normally it would, because you're having to spend money to actually get it promoted. But algorithmically, you get served up through browse, through suggested. It's all very organic. And as a format, it allows me to then repackage that into short form clips for X, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, repackage that video transcript into text, into net new lead magnets. Like I can really create a lot of diversified formats around a single video investment than I can with other formats. And so that's why we've been so bullish on YouTube first, video first, but ideally also not completely over leveraged on those platforms. Because, for all I know, like tomorrow, AI Overview could roll out to YouTube and diminish a lot of the reach that we're getting. And in fact, they're already rolling out AI search functionality on YouTube that we're monitoring very closely. But like, I don't want to be in a position where tomorrow YouTube turns off like it did for Google search. Like I want to be able to hedge. And oftentimes a criterion that we use for any creator that we partner with or acquire is like, are you diversified beyond the core channel that you started? And if yes, let's continue talking.
Okay. Second to last question to do a little, not role play, but you'll get what I mean.
Okay.
You're the head of content at, let's say, a 100-person company. Maybe it's a job site. You help people find jobs. You're in that space.
Yeah.
You find a newsletter or a YouTube channel and you're saying, I think I might want to try buying this. You run through hey, we bought ads for 3 months. It's driving customers.
Yeah.
If you're going to go make the pitch to the C-suite on, I think we should buy this, talk to me about like what that pitch looks like. Like how much time do I how much time do I need to say, give me this much time to prove that this works? How do you think about kind of the LTV of your customers versus the price of the acquisition? Just what does that look like?
Yeah. So what I found, and this isn't like exclusive to HubSpot, I think it's for most C-suites, is that they aren't necessarily in the trenches of marketing on a day-to-day basis where they're seeing all the same headwinds that marketers are seeing today. Like they aren't seeing the precipitous drop from Google. Like they know it's happening, they just don't know to what extent. They aren't seeing the rising paid media cost. They aren't seeing the sort of shift in behaviors and algorithms away from commodified content to expert voices. Like all these things are a bit beyond their pay grade. And so there's a thesis that you have to sort of like pitch them and like, hey, look, like if we don't do this, 6, 12 months from now, we're going to be in a really bad place. this.
Fear.
Like, we can, yeah, exactly. Fear-based acquisitions. No, I'm just to sort of paint the opportunity, right? Because like the finance team doesn't want to keep pumping money into DR at rising CPCs. Like they want something that is a bit more sustainable and compounding. And that's what media provides. So one thing is like the thesis. How can you sort of like paint the opportunity in the picture, but to your point, leaving like a little bit of fear and urgency around it as well to show that we have to act on this now or get left behind. The other is like having like a really tight model, like really do your homework, build out a bulletproof model that can withstand the scrutiny of your finance team, because that's oftentimes where I find a lot of these deals get kind of hung up is like, great, show me your math from like view CVR to lead CVR to QL CVR. What do you forecast the net ads are going to be? What does that mean in terms of ASP? It's like, you got to really have like a lot of great benchmarks to be able to adequately, assuage any concerns that like finance teams have about this being something that will be profitable for them. And then also just being upfront. It's like, hey, look, like media can be a slow burn. Your experience is, again, like very illustrative of that. Like it might take 5 years. I don't know. But sometimes it might be instant. We've seen that as well. And so just making sure that they are committed to that bet. And the cool thing is that there's a lot of good analogs out there in the market as to why this is, a successful strategy. HubSpot, Robinhood, Ramp does a fantastic job. Like all these companies, like, they do a really good job. And so like being able to improve to your C-suite, and like other successful software companies have been able to deploy the same strategy is also very helpful.
Do you, Robinhood, do the companies have like a little cabal where you're comparing notes? And
now we should. I mean, I talk to Josh all the time.
We'll throw a conference for you guys.
Yeah, that's a good.
Last question, 60 seconds. So, someone in this room is saying, I think I might need to do this. Is there any other advice you have of like, if you're going to go down this road, you might have given
it's like the blank is there. I just
like if someone in this room is like, I think I might go after this. Is there any parting words? You might have just given all your secrets.
Yeah, no. I think just like be prepared for the diligence of it all. Like I feel like I've learned so much the diligence process of like what to look for and what to try to like dig in on. And I think a lot of that just comes from the fact that like I've worked at media companies for the last 20 years. So like I know how people sometimes conceal information or try to make numbers, look better than they actually are. But being able to ask the right questions is very important, because then again, like what you will find is that you uncover more assets than you thought you were going to buy, and that can feed into your model and further rationalize the deal itself. And like that's what I found, at least with like Futurepedia, for example, where we bought them for their YouTube channels, but hey, they have a website community that generates 1 million visits every single month. Great. I didn't know that. They have all these social channels. Like they have all these like little like extensions that just are sweeteners on top of the deal that we didn't realize that we were going to acquire.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. That was good.